Redditors who have hired a private investigator, what did you find out? My mother's dad walked out on mom, my aunt, and my grandmother when mom was just 5. A few years later, my grandmother died of a grand mal seizure. Mom was taken in by her grandparents, but she always wondered why her dad left and what became of him. In her 40s, she saved up a bit and hired a PI to track him down. Turns out he moved over time from Pittsburgh to California, where he wound up in prison for armed robbery and so other violent crimes. He died in San Quentin Penitentiary. I think mom got a lot of closure out of that. She was able to see that life would have most likely been even worse had he stayed. At least living with her grandparents, she was loved and raised to fulfill her potential. In his 20s, my so hired a PI to find out what had become of the childhood bully who had made his life hell and who had vowed to kill him. Actually, he did try by bringing a loaded gun to school, but some other kid ratted him out and the bully got expelled but still lived in the neighborhood for a few more years and beat up my so every chance he got. The PI found the bully living in a town more than an hour outside the big city, in a dead-end job. Had been arrested for assault and public drunkenness a couple times. That info helped my so get past his fear that the guy would find him someday and make good on his threat. I never hired one, but my husband is a private investigator and owns a PI business. I have also helped with some surveillance. So, very often, you do not find anything. There isn't anything to find. You have clients wanting to catch their spouses cheating, but they really aren't doing anything. Sometimes, you realize that the client is mentally ill and very paranoid, so we can hook up cameras in the house, but no one is really moving the furniture around or stealing. I will tell you that if my husband really believes it's mental illness, he will not take the job or will cease the job once this is suspected. They need a psychiatrist, not a PI, and he's not cool with taking money from those people. He worked on a pretty high-profile murder case. It involved several murders over a few years. My husband obviously knew a lot of inside stuff that never made it into the news. He found out a lot of interesting stuff there. He would read the Websleuths forum about the case and laugh at the armchair detectives. I know somebody who was like an assistant to the actual PI. She basically went to bingo with a camera in her purse to capture video of a woman. The woman claimed that a car accident had completely immobilized her. But she would take off the neck brace all the time, playing bingo hours on end. Nothing exciting, just capturing fraud. Capturing fraud is exciting. Not a PI and haven't hired one, but I used to work in the office of a PI firm that specializes in insurance fraud. I would edit and sometimes write surveillance and background investigation reports that we passed along to our clients, mostly lawyers and insurance companies. One thing that never failed to surprise me, an astounding number of people who claim to suffer devastating disabilities regularly post pictures, videos of themselves running marathons and building decks in their yards. I'm comfortable saying that in at least half of the cases I handled over 2 years, our clients flagged their claimants as fraudulent because of social media. Disgruntled exes are another significant source of tips. To give an example of one of the more remarkable instances in which social media saved a case, it's summer, and on the day of surveillance, our investigator sees the claimant and his family loading their car with beach stuff. The claimant drives for a couple of hours before the investigator eventually loses sight of the vehicle. Side note, tailing someone in a vehicle without 1 arousing suspicion or 2 losing the vehicle is hard. The investigator, being way too far from his own home to drive home, checks into a motel. The next morning, he checks his phone and finds that the claimant checked in at a water park on Facebook. Investigator makes a pit stop to buy some swim trunks and a beach towel, drives to the water park, and gets hours of covered footage of the claimant swimming in a wave pool, going down water slides, picking up and putting down his kids, and generally doing a whole lot of things you probably shouldn't be able to do with a serious spine injury. TLDR, If you're gonna commit insurance fraud, stay the hell off of social media. My good friend was only raised by her mom growing up, who would always tell her that her father had walked out on them when she was a baby and that he had never wanted anything to do with her. My friend took it really hard and struggled through her entire childhood believing in that. But then a couple of years ago she hired a private investigator to see if they could find him again. Well, they did, and it turned out what her mother told her was a lie. Her dad is seriously one of the sweetest SND soft-hearted guys I've ever met. He left because my friend's mom forced him out when he uncovered her infidelity. I guess he wasn't actually her dad, because her mom cheated on him while they were together, but he loved her like she was his own and has only avoided contacting her because her mom convinced him he legally has no rights to her child and, even worse, she threatened to accuse him of molesting my friend when she was a baby if he reached out anyway. Thankfully my friend is an adult now and has moved out from her mom's house, and she can have the relationship with her dad that she always wanted. It just sucks that she had to go through the effort of hiring a PI to achieve that. I used to work for an insurance defense firm years ago. Best PI story I have is where we hired one to tail a guy who was suing our client for an injury that wasn't entirely our client's fault. The guy was refusing to settle and was insisting on going to trial even though we offered a fair sum that would have paid his medical bills. The PI we hired got some good pics that showed the plaintiff was nowhere near as injured as he claimed, but the crown jewel of the photos was one where the guy was walking on a pier with a woman who wasn't his wife. Had his hand on her and everything. Later in a deposition, the attorney slid the picture to the plaintiff and said something like Mr. Smith, obviously not his real name. Who is the woman in this picture? We would like to schedule a deposition with her as well. The guy went ghost white and told his attorney he wanted to settle. At least he was smart enough to realize that if his wife found out the other woman was gonna be deposed, he was gonna have to get a family law attorney as well, because the divorce papers would soon follow. My work requires us to hire PIs to investigate injury claims. We had this high schooler claiming a head injury so severe that he basically couldn't live a normal life. Specifically, he had an issue with bright lights. Couldn't stare at a computer or TV long, etc. Our PI caught him on several occasions at the movies, arcade, basketball games, etc. So basically he was making a fraudulent claim. My wife and I are friends with a lot of bar owners and bartenders because of her job. We knew this one owner tender, we will call him Dana, that was the nicest freaking guy. Like, if he knew you were sick, he would cover your shift at your bar and then give you the tips he made that night. Just the best guy. Then one night we are drinking with another bartender friend, Ben. Ben lets us know that Dana has brain cancer. He's been keeping it quiet, but Ben has been giving him money, upwards of $5,000, for treatment. My wife and I were about to give money to Ben to pass on. Then Dana's business partner got suspicious and hired a PI to follow Dana on a day he took off for medical reasons. Turned out Dana spent the day drinking at another bar. No doctor visits. The business partner confronted Dana, who comes clean. He did not have cancer. He was just saying that to get money from his friends. Apparently lots of bartenders had been giving him money. Dana is more or less run out of town. He moved to a different city, and I know he slowly paid Ben back, but it took a couple years. I'm not sure what happens to him since. She wasn't cheating. She was training racing pigeons of all things. My dad was cheating on my mom with two different old men. Both of them don't know about the other one. He says he isn't gay or anything, he's doing it for the money. He told us that he's in their wills and everything and that they're just friends. I don't believe it. How do you end up in a friend's will? There's definitely something else going on, but he won't admit it. My mom calls him El Buta as a code word for him. It means the vulture in Spanish. Edit, spelling. I'm pretty sure my dad had pies, or some people tail me for a few days when I was younger. My siblings came up with the same conclusion for themselves and we all assumed it was just us individually being followed. Not me, but my dad. My mom's a hoe. I could have told him myself, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings and he wanted hard evidence anyway. Eater, if I remember right, it was 5 different guys at one time. One might have been the meth dealer, but he might have come later. It's been a while and there was a lot to keep up with. Pi was like, I'm sorry, you really got your money's worth. I had his back twice by telling the guys that she was married and that we all still lived together. Pretty entertaining breakups were my immediate reward. Not having to go with her to watch her date guys behind my dad's back was my long-term reward. Turns out, dad doesn't have any bio children. Well, this was just really sad. My uncle was a private investigator. In high school my friends and I were getting flashed by a guy constantly. He would do thing like RM while naked at his window every time the bus dropped us off. I hated it, so told my uncle, who was very concerned this guy's behavior would escalate. So he started filming him doing it, then went on a local news program to discuss it and the guy moved out the next day. Not the person who hired him, but my father hired one and found out my mom cheated on him while they were married. My father still has the evidence in his house. Edit 1. Clarification. The only reason I know is because my dad told me and showed me the DVD trying to make me watch it to hate my mom. He should untie the guy and let him go. We all make mistakes. Sometimes I get to figure out that people's kids aren't really their kids, which is kinda sorta like the work that most private investigators do. High school bio teacher that teaches blood type inheritance. I hired a Pi to follow the first Pi I got to see if he was doing his job. Turns out the guy being followed by the first Pi is actually you from the future and the second Pi is actually also you from further in the future. The first Pi himself is just a regular dude, but he's gonna freak out when he learns what's going on. Pretty sure my mom was scammed out of $200 by a private investigator. What was he supposed to investigate? Basic, not exciting answer, but I hired one through our adoption attorney to find one of my foster children's biological father. Pi found a phone number and 2 addresses, so hopefully that's enough to serve papers and continue with the adoption. Not me, but my grandfather did. He was separated from his brother when the Japanese occupied China. My grandfather safely made it to Hong Kong and eventually to Canada. His brother made it to Singapore or Malaysia according to family friends back then. So my grandfather spent a good 5 years or so working with a Pi to find his brother so they can be reunited. Sadly, with just a picture and the fact many people died in the war, it wasn't much to go on. My grandfather is still alive and always thinks of his brother. It's his wish to see him one more time. My grandmother's first boyfriend after my grandfather died said he was a retired cop and a veteran. They enjoyed dancing to country music together and bought a new car, in her name though, even though she can't drive anymore. My uncle's hired a Pi. Turns out, that old bastard had a habit of shacking up with widows and bleeding them dry. The boyfriend's not the Pi. I got hired to look into another Pi just to ensure he was doing his job. Later we found out that each of us were looking for each other to be investigated. There were 3 of us. She was playing pat a cake with my boss. They knew all the moves. Clapping, cross-clapping, double clapping. The line about the baby in the oven. I was devastated. She's not bad, she's just drawn that way. That the secretary was moonlighting as an escort. Oh, and she was also fricking the owner of the company. I hired a Pi. His name was Gene Parmesan. Gene? I was suspicious that my first husband was cheating on me, so I hired a private investigator, and what happened was it turned out that my husband had a secret second job that he would go to for 3 hours at a time every few days because he was going to surprise me with a new diamond necklace for my birthday, and once I found that out I felt super bad, so I apologized to my husband and he got really upset that I didn't trust him, and then he divorced me. So you lost the ability to punctuate in the divorce? I have a 19-year-old applicant who mentioned having a PIA license on his resume. I am excited to find out WTF he has investigated. In 5th grade, he uncovered a massive cootie club. I'm a private investigator and I'll tell you that a lot of people are right. Your spouse is cheating on you. I was my own pie. I had a voice-activated tape recorder in my husband's business and found out he was hopelessly in love with a younger woman. We're all very happy now that they don't live on boats or drive luxury sports cars. I hope my free Reddit award boosts this a bit. What an interesting question that I want some answers to. That Sherlock Holmes enjoys the infinite sandwich. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/the_adventure_of_the_singular_sandwich. Jenny was meeting up for kisses. Some friends hired one to find their daughter who ran away to LA. The Nutsons. He apparently spent all his time following an old stoner in the valley. Lots of bowling, so he said. He did have some cool tales about some German nihilists, though. I think they get hired to investigate cheating spouses a lot. That my dad is gay. He always said he was going to the gym but was getting butt fricked by some guy. Fear expensive-ish. My ex-wife is still a fat slob. But now she's a fat slob living with a man, which means no more court-ordered alimony. That she was a no-good rotten dirty hoe. Do they really investigate people's privates? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.